Welcome back to 5 Pillars of Business Success for Startup. We are still on Pillar 4. This is Part 3 of Pillar 4, Manage Systems and Lead People. If you recall in lesson number 2, we discussed the 5 steps to creating systems. We discussed recognize your most valuable asset, which is time, recognizing your largest expense with the hope of minimizing it, which systems do, and that is opportunity cost. Now we are going to discuss repurposing time. Then in the next lesson, we'll discuss testing and refining our processes and also formalizing these processes into systems. So, welcome back. Let's get on with it. Let's talk about step number 3, repurposing time. Now, this step actually has 2 steps. So, these are 2 sub-steps within repurposing time. First, and it's really simple, but it's really about forming habits. So, it's a little more difficult than it may seem. It's about objectively looking at yourself and changing your behaviors, which seems simple on the surface, but it can be fairly difficult. So at the end, I'm going to have a couple more resources for you at the end of this lesson that will hopefully help you to repurpose your time. Once we study our minutes, then we're simply going to repurpose our minutes. So let's go into this. We need to study our minutes, and what this means basically is we want to track our minutes. Where are our minutes going? We want to be very intentional about this. We want to systematically track where our minutes are going, track all our activities. How many minutes are we spending on investments? How many are we spending? And finally, how many are we wasting? And you're going to be very surprised if you go through this process. You're going to be very surprised by how many minutes you're wasted. The process here is very simple. You can create some columns on a sheet of paper. You can get some column paper. You can use a spreadsheet. If you've ever kept a timesheet or billed by the hour, you already know how to do this because you're tracking your minutes during the day to see where your minutes are going and what is billable, what is not. So what you do here is get some columns, put yourself a date on it. Now I didn't have room on the screen here, but you're also probably going to put the date, start time, end time for each activity. And you're just going to put the activity, how many minutes it was, and then you're going to have 3 columns. Was it an investment? Was it spent? Or was it wasted? So let's discuss investments first. If you remember, investments are basically activities that are going to be making current customers happy. That would be providing your product or service, or you're getting new customers. And that can include not just doing your own, direct outreach with customers, but also include networking, gatekeeper relationships, lead generation, and follow-up. Remember, what we really want to do primarily is create that awesome customer experience, making current customers happy, with the intent of utilizing those customers to get referrals. We want to fill that trust bucket all the way up till it spills over and we get plenty of referrals, so we have to work less at getting new customers. They come to us. That's the objective. So systems are going to help you do that. We want to increase efficiency and effectiveness of all of our activities. That means increasing profit, make current customers happy, get new customers, generate a profit, basically investments. If you can't draw a straight line between the activity and one of those 3 items, making current customers happy, getting new customers, or helping to become more efficient and effective by generating a profit, which you're doing right now through systems, it's not an investment. Those are investment activities. We want to create systems around a customer experience, systems around product creation and delivery, and also our next pillar 5, are really high leverage activities that will help you go to the next level, developing yourself and developing your business. To take it to the next level, those are pillar 5 activities. Those are also investment activities. Next column here, we're going to have spent activities, which you could say they're expensed, but I'm using the phrase spent because they are basically, if you recall, that's stuff you got to get done or you're going to be in crisis mode. Activities that your business must complete, but they're not investments. You can't draw a direct line between them, make current customers happy, get new customers, generate a profit, but they got to be done. This is basically everything else in your business that has to be done. And if you think of a couple of examples, if you don't pay your sales tax, you don't like filling out that form, it's not that you don't have the money. Sooner or later, you're going to be in crisis mode because you're going to have to deal with the tax authorities of whatever municipality you're in, and also most likely your state. Same with like income tax, same with maintenance on your vehicles. If you don't clean your office long enough, it's going to look like a pigsty, and your customers are going to see it and they're not going to come back. Those are activities that have to get done, and if not, you're going to be in crisis mode. And they're often, they're often handled by others more efficiently and effectively. Let's say accounting, for example. You might want to spend an hour a day doing your own QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you're using, but you think about it, that's an hour a day. That's a lot of weeks during the year that you are spending that was probably going to be done more efficiently, effectively by somebody else. Spend activities are basically stuff that has to get done, but it's not the best use of whose time? Your time. And that's what we want to do, is we invest those minutes. All right, what about wasted activity? This is where a lot of our days go. All right, the wasted column here, put them in columns. You're tracking your activities, the minutes you're spending on it, you're putting them in that column, you're going to total them at the end of the day, and then at the end of the week, end of the month. I should probably tell you, if you want to do this, you've got to do this for at least a week. I would really highly recommend making this just become part of what you do, tracking your minutes as best you can, and just reviewing your day. You know, seeing once you're going to, until you internalize this process where you have that little bell go off in your head, once you form these habits, which that's what you're doing, is forming new habits. You probably want to keep track, and then you will internalize, hey, this activity is an investment. This activity is really something I need to work on to develop systems around to hand off to somebody else. And this activity I just shouldn't be doing because it's completely wasted time. Wasted minutes, if you recall, are neither invested or spent. These are mini distractions, and these are like they're habitual time wasters. They're parts of our personality where we can use to escape stress, to be entertained. They let dopamines go off in our brain, like now with all our little electronic devices. These are activities that basically they're not invested, they're not spent activities, and if you don't do them, nothing negative happens. Some feel really good, some feel even really important, but others are obvious. I'm going to discuss just a couple time wasters here that are really big in our culture right now. Number one is going to be that device you're carrying. You might even be watching this video on that device, and that is your phone. Average person right now in the United States of America, 80 times a day we're checking that thing. We are addicted. We got to admit it. We're addicted. We're checking that thing 80 times a day. Anytime there's a notification on it, anytime you get a tweet from somebody or someone tweets something, you know, whatever. I don't know how your notifications are set up, but anytime someone sends you a text, anytime somebody likes something of yours on Facebook, turn all those notifications off, please. Or maybe you're just checking your email. You get in the habit of checking that phone 80 times a day on average. That's one time every 10 minutes. That's 6 times an hour. Think about it. You might be saying, oh, I'm only spending 5 seconds on the phone. I just checked, I just looked at something. The human mind, your mind functions in a way that you can only do one thing at a time. And when you are focused on whatever activity, when you get distracted from that, you've got to recoup. You've got to go back and pick up where you left off. Nothing takes 30 seconds. You're losing at least 2 to 5 minutes every time you do that, until you get back to the level of efficiency and effectiveness that you were out before on that activity. 80 times a day, that's almost 3 hours a day. If you were the average American checking your phone 80 times, think about it. What would that be worth a year? It's over 3 months of a year that is spent on this. Okay, that's why I was getting into that. Okay, multitasking is another one. We really can't multitask. And as a small business owner with a startup, you've got to do everything. That's why we're going through this. In the beginning, you're going to be handling all these activities we were discussing. You're primarily going to be the one doing them. You and maybe a handful of other people. So small business owners have to multitask, but you can't do more than one thing at the same time. You have to prioritize your time, figure out what's investments, make sure those get done, spend the majority of your time on that. And anyways, multitasking is a time waster. Block your time, one thing at a time. Many conversations, texts, and phone calls, we kind of went over that, but also many conversations, picking up what went on with the game last night, whatever you're doing. If you're working in a room with several other people, there's a rule called Buch's Law, which means you have more than one person performing a task, you are going to lose a lot of effectiveness in getting that task done. That's another area of this pillar that's not covered in this particular lesson, but it's very, very important. Unnecessary meetings and travel. There you go. Many of our meetings are unnecessary. Many meetings that last 20, 30 minutes. We'll spend 10 to 15 minutes talking about other stuff until we dig into the meat of what we're there to discuss. You have one of those a day, that's 15 minutes a day gone. You can get a lot of investment activities done in that 15 minutes. Traveling between meetings. Travel time is by definition wasted time. You know, it might be an investment for the end result, but you're not, what are you doing during that time? Make sure you utilize that time, but it's hard to make travel time investments. Now, Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Every time you say yes to a non-investment activity or a non-spent activity, you're saying no to investments and things that need to be done for your business. So this can include some customers. There's some customers you're going to find over time, you're going to try to keep them. 80-20 rule, you're going to find that 20% of your customers, you probably need to cut bait with them because you were spending 80% of your time dealing with them. Find those customers. Some of them become more of a liability than they're worth. Some of them end up being time wasters, believe it or not. Even though they might fit your customer profile, don't be afraid to let them go. Also, crisis management. Crisis management resulting from a lack of a pillar. Crisis management resulting from not having effective systems, not doing the right thing. So those are all examples of wasted time. We're going to put all these things into columns, add them up. And once you've added up, what we'll do, you're going to be surprised by where your time's going, by the way. Then we want to repurpose those minutes. So what we want to do then is we want to take our invested minutes. Those are where we focus. We form systems around making current customers happy, getting new customers, and generating a profit. That's where we want to focus our time. Spent minutes are really, they need to be done. They need to get done, but not necessarily by you. These are items we want to form systems around, particularly in the startup stage, and then we want to delegate those systems to somebody else. What about waste? Oh, let's wait a second here. This is what I'm going to hear from many of you. I'd love to, but I'm too busy. I don't have money to hire somebody else to handle that right now. That's why we're in the system mode. You can't afford not to do this. You can't afford not forming systems around these activities and not delegating them. You can't do it. Even if it's work, if you have to hire somebody to handle a particular activity, I keep using bookkeeping because I'm really from the accounting background, but many activities, whether it's you just try to design your own website, good luck. You're not going to be very good at it. You're going to need to hire somebody, unless you're in web design. I apologize to you guys that are web design, but you're not going to be able to do that. Same with some social media. Social media only related to your business is probably handled by someone else over time. Form systems around it, bring somebody else in to operate it. If you're not good at it, find somebody to do it, even if you have to pay them. You can't afford not to do that. Enough said. All right, wasted time. Simple. Stop. That's going to be hard to do. That's going to be hard to do, but you want to do it. You have to do it, and what you're going to do at the end of that, once you look at the end of the day, you're going to be surprised by your spent minutes and wasted minutes, particularly wasted minutes. You collect all those free minutes that you're freeing up by what we're talking about right now, and you're going to make those minutes investments. So you're just taking those minutes, you're repurposing those minutes, and you're going to make them make current customers happy, get new customers, generate a profit. That's what I call the golden rule of business. Spend your minutes making current customers happy, getting new customers, generating a profit. That's what we do. That's what we mean by repurposing our business. Our minutes, we're taking our spent minutes and wasted minutes, making them investments. That's what we do. That's really cool. So remember that phone thing, 3 hours a day. I only got 2 hours a day on this chart. Look at this. That's 3 months a year, 2 hours a day, 120 minutes. Think about it. Repurpose those minutes. It requires discipline, but your job is going to be to track your minutes, rewatch this video, and also we want to track your invested, spent, wasted minutes, but then we want to repurpose your minutes. Okay, that's your job. Now, I told you in the beginning, I'm going to have some additional resources for you because this is really kind of tough. I mean, this is hard. You're changing habits here. There's 2 books I'd like for you to read. There's many books out here. These are just 2 that I like. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Many times you go for your MBA, your master's degree programs, not just in the MBA, but many programs. This is one of the first books they have you read. It's Stephen Covey. Great book. What we're looking for here, though, is just pillars 1 to 3 for this, and that's where you form independence. That's basically where you learn that they become proactive, which is what we're doing with the systems, become action-oriented. And also it has a lot to do with time prioritizing and time management. So you can become independent before you become interdependent. Those are some of the other habits. Also, the one thing, which is the simple truth behind extraordinary results, written by Gary Keller. I really like this book also. If you know him, he's from the real estate company. He's one of the founders of Keller Williams Real Estate. This is a great book. It really discusses a lot on time blocking, determining based on your business goals or your personal objectives, what is the most important thing you can get done within the next X amount of time to make that goal a lot easier to achieve. How to time block, learning how to time block your time, setting aside a certain number of hours to the achievement of that, whatever that one thing is at this stage in development, making sure it gets done. Really good book, I highly recommend it. And hey, we're done this lesson. Next lesson, we're going to wrap up these systems so you're going to have the best systems you can.